Welcome to F.A.C.E, Ryan. How are you, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Can you hear me
Yeah,
loud and clear?
Loud and
yeah.
clear.
Awesome. All right, let
Um,
me just, how do I share my screen
there's a
on
green
this?
box
There is that
that
menu
says
that
share.
if you mouse over it, it pops up, and then it drops
Ah, got
down
it.
once you, yeah, it says share, yes.
There we go, I think.
There you go.
Yeah, got it.
Oops. All
So
right,
you're
here we
showing the
go.
calendar, and now you're showing Bitcoin breaking down. So we'll get to crypto in a minute, Ryan. I want to start with knowing a little bit about your journey in trading. I understand your Twitter handle now. You're an equestrian. So cantering
Yeah.
is a good pace for trading. Or do you gallop
Oh, no,
at
no
times,
galloping.
man? Huh?
You gallop when you're younger, right? Before you
Uh,
learn the lessons that allow you to last in the long run.
do you jump over, obstacles in your
You know,
trading?
so, oh, I thought we were still on the equestrian.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah,
You know,
you have to, but my wife is more of the equestrian.
I see.
Had
Okay. All
similar
right.
background in that, but that's more of her thing. But the
Okay.
name comes from that. Yeah.
So
Bunch of
I'm always interested in how people ended up in this industry and what they might have been doing prior and what the catalyst was that got them involved in trading and just being involved in figuring out the jigsaw puzzle of the markets. So how did it start for you, buddy?
Yeah, absolutely. So ever since I was probably around, end of high school, I took an interest in markets. Went to school for finance and economics. Last year did a summer internship at the time, which was Smith Barney. If you remember them.
How do you like
Uh,
cold calling?
a lot of
That's
caffeine.
it
It's
sounds like you
terrible,
enjoyed it.
terrible, terrible.
Yeah.
Left there, went to work for a family office. Went to work for a family office at the time. Had a job set up to actually take at Lehman Brothers at the time. My grandfather, who is a big guy in commodities, was friends with Joe Gregory. So I don't know if you know who Joe Gregory is. That fell through.
I come from the Chicago commodity side.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
so that fell through in October. Everyone knows what happened to Lehman Brothers. I went back to family office. Wasn't really interested in wealth management per se. I was more interested in the overall dynamics of the market. So more of the technical side. Took more of an interest in what I would say is something similar to CTA-like strategies. So
okay,
studying
so are they,
momentum.
CTAs can do anything. So is it more like swing trading, position trading?
Yeah, so
They're
more.
trend traders, a lot of CTAs are try to be trend traders.
Yeah, well, a lot of their strategy can boil down to something just like the 10-100 moving average, right?
Yeah,
They are I was more interested in time series momentum in the beginning. So
interesting.
identifying, early stage momentum, serial correlation, um, not being as active as a lot of my counterparts. I think that you end up getting when you start to try to be too active, it's really you're trading from boredom. I was looking for the larger moves in the market. So I got into trading managed accounts. Wanted to carve my own path. Traded managed accounts. Did that for a little while, and then started what was a boutique at the time, Kenner and Clark. Block Roots is actually completely separate. I partnered with a guy named Josh Rager, who's a big, awesome guy
Crypto
in the
guy.
crypto space.
Okay.
What's that?
Yeah, I was because I noticed. I went to the website, and I probably assumed that that was your background too. But looks like you were probably trading equities at the beginning of your career.
Yeah, so started trading equities, then took an interest in oil. I wanted to, whenever I started doing more discretionary trading for myself, I realized, and I think that a lot of people, they come to realize this soon, and if they don't, they probably should, is that you should try to focus on a limited amount of assets.
I
So
believe that.
You know,
The other argument is, so if you have a larger universe, that sometimes those select instruments that you're focused on aren't offering you compelling trading situations. So if you're scanning more, because up until recently the euro and the dollar's been kind of sideways for a long
right.
time, and so if you're focusing on just that, and it's really just a range and choppy, there's nothing to do, a bigger universe, there you might see something else. But I agree, especially for beginners. You know why?
Yes, yeah.
You know why, Ryan? I knew guys, and it sounds like you probably knew guys on the floor at Comex or whatever before they all became bowling alleys. Did you know, traders open in the open outcry days? Are you old enough?
Well, I'm 34 years old, so
Okay, so
that
not
was
really. Okay,
no.
so not really. You're from the machine age, but
Yes, yeah,
uh,
screens.
the point being, I knew guys on the CME floor that never left one pit their whole career,
Yeah,
and they knew it like the back of their hand. Who
yeah.
influenced you with your work, your technical work? Did you have mentors? You read books? What? How did you develop your technical style? Anyone a big influence on you?
Well, so originally my grandfather was a lumber guy.
Oh
So
gosh, yeah,
yeah,
they were the biggest crooks, the lumber pit on the CME floor.
yeah. So
They really
originally
were, man.
he was a lumber guy. But
Oh
I mean,
wow,
if
yeah.
there are guys that I look to and I try to emulate, I wasn't originally looking to follow anyone technical in particular. I was just trying to pick up a little bit from, you look at, famous traders first and foremost, right? So you're trying to follow in the footsteps of giants. So,
So
Paul
market
Tudor
wizard
Jones.
guys.
Yeah, Paul Tudor Jones, yes.
Yeah, I loved it.
Andy
I love.
Hall. Andy Hall was a
Okay,
tremendous oil trader.
okay.
And then from CTA background, you have guys at Quest like Nagol Jahan.
Uh-huh.
Portfolio managers, even just bright guys, Mark Spitznagel. You kind of you try to take a little bit, create your own ingredients, and you have to learn through osmosis and trial and error, before you kind of come up with something that works for you.
Well,
As
Schwager said, I asked Schwager when I interviewed him, I said, Jack, what's the most important advice you could give to a trader? And he said, to find a trading style that suits your personality.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Even if I don't know a trader, I feel like I have a pretty strong grasp on what type of person they are. If you think of a scalper versus someone who's a swing trader, more of a position trader, you can imagine that those two people probably have two different temperaments.
Yeah,
Uh, Two different levels of the activity. It probably precedes some type of personality characteristic, and you do have to find something that suits your personality. I think that's one of the, not to get right into the subject, it's the things that trouble new traders is you don't find the one thing. They have that constant style drift. You're constantly
yeah.
looking for the
Holy
for
grail that
the
doesn't exist.
yeah. And even if they don't understand, they have a pretty tenuous grasp, I'd say, on things like expectancy, risk, just an idea of what they need to, what type of clusters of losses a system can expect. They have a few
Yeah.
losses in the system and they immediately start wiping the drawing board clean and looking for something completely new.
Okay, so I think we're talking on what might be a pretty significant day in Bitcoin. And I see that mainly you have pivot zones. I'm not sure what you have at the bottom for the green. Is that just volume?
Yeah,
What do you have
all
there?
right, so the thing about Bitcoin that really drew me to it is originally it was a volatility. So ended 2017. I was not an early adopter. So I was not someone who was getting in Bitcoin, to hedge against, central bank abuse or a dystopian society. I was drawn to the space the same way that, a surfer is looking for where the next waves are.
Okay.
And uh, and it just happens to be that, if you're a if you're a technical based trader, Bitcoin trades in such a formulaic or deterministic way that, you know, it has no fundamentals. And that's why it has those tremendous drops, because there's no point in which anyone steps in and says, okay, Bitcoin is now, you know, 30% down. You know, if Apple drops 30%, if you know, any of these major Fortune 5 companies drop 20%, you're probably going to have people that are going to be stepping in, and whether they're value investors or they're growth investors. Bitcoin doesn't. So it's just the most reflexive, technical based asset that, you know, I run into.
You know, great surfers don't try and catch every wave. They too
That's
wait
right,
for
yeah.
setups.
That's another thing that comes with maturity too, I think. And that's funny because I'm a surfer. So,
okay. Are you out here? Oh, and you're in New York. Where do you surf?
Yeah. So Long Beach, Gilgo. Unfortunately, I was away last week or 2 weeks ago when we actually had the best surf. Yeah, the best surf I think that New York had in its entirety. So.
I tried to learn it when I moved out to California. I pearled.
Okay.
You know what it is, right?
No, what's pearled? Is that the skimboarding?
No, that means that, you know, when you're taking off on the wave, by the time you catch it, there's nothing but air underneath you. And you pearl right into
Yeah.
You wipe out. Anyway.
Yeah.
So I want to get a little
on my chart right now.
We're looking at Bitcoin. You know, I've been looking for this area. Okay. From you know, it's corrective from, if you want to call the rally from the beginning of the year. What do you think around here at this 7,500 level? I know classically, maybe you think it's a continuation formation and we could trade to 5 or so. So what's your take on what's happening here?
So yeah, you know, the thing about, so we came up off 300, we came up basically 320% off the lows.
Right.
You know, we had a nice V and then, you know, prolonged sideways action. You know, Bitcoin is the thing that I'm looking for is I want to find areas where, one, I want to identify right away, you know, the path of least resistance, who's in control, positioning, right?
What are your pivots based on, Ryan? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you know, I think that's the most important thing that you have on your setup here.
Well, mostly what I'm looking at is volume points of control. So areas where there are, you know, a large amount of transactions, large interaction of buyers and sellers. So I'm primarily looking at volume profile.
That's what's at the bottom of your chart?
This is so what I'm looking at right here is actually, this is a funding. So this is the one thing that I think is one of the idiosyncrasies of cryptocurrency is, so how there's an exchange that's the largest derivatives exchange for crypto, and it's BitMEX.
Right.
And it's a peer-to-peer futures exchange, so they offer perpetual swaps. And it has, you know, it has basically, whenever there are traders that are dominant one side, so when there's really aggressive longs lifting the offer, you know, they essentially are going to be paying an interest rate, and that goes to people who take the other side of the market. So it's a mechanism created by the exchange to move the futures price to the spot price, since it's a cash settled futures. Okay. So when that funding rate is either, you know, extremely high or extremely negative, that can give us some insight into what the overall positioning is on an exchange that more or less leads the market.
Okay, because you don't have COT like you do with futures.
Well,
this is kind of your look inside.
Well, I do look at commitment of traders on the CME, but that's, you know,
it's too thin to mean anything.
It is. I mean, the margin requirements are higher on the CME. So, you know, at some points you could say that the actual value traded might be higher on the CME compared to the notional value on something like the crypto derivatives exchange.
Huh. Okay.
But I wouldn't say that that is a strong enough indicator. You know, there are times when I'll reference, you know, that the long only asset managers have gotten a bit longer and it looks like it's supportive of a trend, but I don't think that that's really actionable information.
Okay.
So BitMEX is the exchange that actually leads the market more often than not, because this is an asset that, you know, the liquidations alone are what a lot of times can cause these cascades, right? So to the upside and to the downside, crashing upward and downward. Okay. So when we have so primarily I'm trading price volume and I'm looking at delta. So I'm looking at order flow. So cumulative volume delta the sum of you're talking about aggressive trading versus aggressive order flow versus passive order flow. I don't know if
Interesting.
you're
I
familiar
know
with
nothing about this is new
okay.
territory for me. So
All right,
tell me how you see it, and I mean, I could
so
guess passive.
what I will be looking at is I will be looking at if you're on trading technologies, you could look at something. You could get an indicator such as the cumulative volume delta, and that's showing you the total of orders lifting the bid and hitting the offer. So basically, market executions, right?
Okay.
So there are certain markets, right, that move a little bit
Kind of
more
like
on
what
market.
the Souls Bandits used to do in the old days.
I'm not really familiar with that.
Oh, I keep forgetting, and you're a puppy. All right, but yeah, let
Yeah,
me
yeah.
tell you something. How long have you been doing this?
12 years.
Okay, you're a pro. No, you look, like you said, you could tell from talking to people.
Yeah.
I've interviewed over 1,000 traders, so I can tell too. So okay, go. So you're using things that I've never even
All right. So
considered.
markets. So it's a zero-sum game. So every buyer needs a seller, but there are times when there are more aggressive buyers versus more aggressive sellers. Now, market order needs to match with the limit order, right? And we know that a lot of the time, larger traders shaping the market are typically going to be executing with limit orders. From transaction cost point, from just the idea of being able to put on more size with doing it in a more surreptitious manner, not causing too much movement. Now, when you see that there is a large amount of, for example, a large amount of orders buyers lifting the offer, right? So aggressively buying, but price is not really following. That would be what you'd say is a divergence between a cumulative volume divergence or cumulative delta divergence.
So basically,
Indicating
it's
that
saying a lot of buying's coming in, but it's having very little impact on price, which is a
exactly.
tell of market weakness.
Well, that and the tell of who the heavier hand is.
Okay.
So the heavier hand is in the limit typically.
Okay.
So I'm looking for where traders are aggressively lifting the offer and price is not moving upward, okay, and beginning to fall. You're looking at something like a footprint chart where you're looking at more of the atomized and granular activity that's occurring within candles. So I'm primarily using this in combination with price action, because a lot of the times when you're looking at price action, when you're looking at trading levels, support and resistance, it leaves out a lot of context. You don't really get a complete picture of, say there's certain imbalances that might exist that you don't see. So imbalances between, again, aggressive buyers versus aggressive sellers in an area. You don't really get a complete idea of what goes on in the auctioning process or in the auctioning environment.
Okay.
So I'm going to be looking at taking major moves based on this. So what we saw with these last moves at this top, okay, this was, whether or not you want to think this was a melt up or not, a lot of the time, I think that the trouble with people with crypto traders is they romanticize the asset so much they're not willing to let go of the fact that it might be going through a major corrective period. So what you see at the tops of these structures over here was there was a lot of aggressive buyers in the form of market orders, but they're relatively small sizes. So that is so those are your the last
retail
people that are sidelined that are trying to jump in at the top of a move, and that is one of the things that you're going to identify. You're going to see that, for example, most of the moves are market executions. The heavier hand is clearly in the limit because price is not resolving upward anymore, and the volume is a little bit lower in terms of the order size. Each transacted order size it's typically a smaller player, because your smaller players are going to be executing at market, right? So a lot of your smaller traders are going to be executing at market. So it's just one of the things I look for along with support and resistance. But this right here is the volume profile. So I'm looking at right now we're falling below the point of control. The next area I look for would be the next high volume ledge, which is not really a high volume ledge at all, but nevertheless, it typically is going to be an area where you'll find some type of responsiveness through dormant orders or just the fact that everyone is looking at the same chart and it's such a technically traded asset.
Okay. So you're not seeing any reason or accumulation or things that you look for this down day that we're having today to possibly end up being a place where you want to accumulate? What would your outlook be
for
what you're seeing right now for Bitcoin, not what happened in January?
Right,
but
right.
what's actionable now? And it's okay if there's nothing that you would do, but what are you looking for going forward here in Bitcoin?
Yeah, so what I'm going to obviously, what I want to do is I want to see how we respond when we're moving sideways. I want to see if we are going to be in a position where on the derivatives exchange, we have something like an extremely negative funding rate, indicating that a lot of those traders on the exchange are aggressively hitting the bid. Okay, and in that case, if they're aggressively hitting the bid with market executions, and we're not really seeing again price do anything to break down, that's going to be an area I'm going to be looking for, that area where those traders can be caught off sides. We have one of those moves that seems like the obvious short. I'm patient though. I'm not.
Like today.
Yeah, yeah. You know what?
I mean, today, I mean, what's more obvious than the breakdown today?
Yeah. This
What are you saying?
this is within a technical range. You move sideways within a technical range long enough, and you have that accumulation of fuel on to the upside and to the downside.
Let me ask you this: what happens if you do use stops? Because I've heard from a lot of people that trade on that exchange that they're unable. A lot of times, the market will actually go through their limit orders, and they won't get filled. How do you trade on BitMEX with stops?
No, so
Are there stop hunts like there is everywhere else in Bitcoin?
yeah, absolutely. I actually don't. So that's the thing. That's where I gather my information from BitMEX, but I actually don't actively trade on BitMEX. I actually use a different exchange called Bybit. It has a better matching engine. BitMEX is known to have what's referred to as scam wicks. So
never heard of that.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
there are definitely
like spoofing.
Not spoofing, but well, of course, spoofing takes place, but there are periods in which there's been $200-$300 wicks right through people's stops, and the market obviously moves in the opposite direction, right? So it seems like more often than not, there's a good amount of stop hunting that occurs on the exchange.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The exchange that I use, Bybit, they don't have a trading desk trading against anybody. They have what is, in terms of the technology, they have the better matching engine.
Okay.
But I get a majority of the information from BitMEX because that is the most heavily populated exchange. So that's where I would say that's the most accurate information you could get is from that exchange.
Okay. So right now, flat, waiting for some technical evidence. If we get through here, am I correct to assume that 5,700 to your next stop?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see any. Typically, the gaps, the same way we move up and cut through butter like a hot knife, it works to the downside as well. That is one of the reasons what brought me to the space is the asset is so reflexive.
Okay.
And whether or not Bitcoin goes to an all-time high in the next 2 years, or that's not something that I even really focus much of my attention on. I think that's a lot of people in the crypto, that's their attention is focused primarily on that.
They all want to be Nostradamus.
Yeah,
Huh?
and it seems that way.
Yeah.
It is, though. The space is
Hold
really
on,
like
hold on. My tinfoil hat just fell off my head. Well, I tell you what, it's been, interesting talking to you. You have a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge, and I could tell you have a lot of intensity in what you do. I could tell you love it. And people that are listening to us now or listen to the recording, the video later, now would be a good time, Ryan, to show your website and contact information. You can follow Ryan at Cantering Clark on Twitter. You want to show your website and the services you offer?
Yeah, so we actually so the website it's essentially, we're a trading community. So we're not a signal provider by any means. This is the community page. On the actual website itself, what we have is we have a curated market information, strictly cryptocurrencies with some of the traditional markets listed, just to give us an idea of where we sit relative to cryptocurrency. So
Any
the Marketpedia,
correlations in that you're notice that have any value with crypto and any of the outside markets you pay attention to that you've
no,
noticed?
if anything, there was a correlation with gold.
Okay.
I think that was, you know, I don't think that there is any reasonable correlation between Bitcoin and anything currently. I'd say that, sometimes it behaves like a risk on asset, sometimes it
Right.
behaves like a risk
That's
off
why I was
asset.
asking. Yeah.
And one of the things that actually, so all things are moving towards being more correlated, period. But one of the things that keeps Bitcoin from being as correlated as it could be to anything is the fact that you don't have the same availability on your own trading platform if you're trading equities to just buy into Bitcoin, right? So to move in and out of an asset the way you can on a traditional brokerage account, or
Right.
the way that retail has access to do that now with stocks, bonds,
That's a great
currencies, and
point too.
commodities. So
Yeah.
it's distanced in that way. And I think that, all things being equal moving forward, that there will be some type of correlation that as the market grows will begin to develop, but it's such a small market right now. You have to think that the size of the crypto market as a whole right now is basically the size of one of your mid cap to large cap stocks as a
Okay.
singular asset. But this is a bunch of assets. So
Okay. Yeah, that's valid. So
yeah.
you guys teach and mentor people.
So what we do is we provide daily market updates. We provide education. So we're not providing signals. We're not looking to be a follow our trade kind of group.
Yeah, you
Basically
don't
just,
want lazy people hanging out with you. You want people to want to learn how to be self-directed.
yeah. And you know what? A lot of people, they don't understand that if you're
Oh,
following someone else's system, that person who trades that system, they have an understanding of the expectancy of that system, the losses they can expect to incur. If you're just following someone else's system, you're not prepared to take maybe, if you're a swing trader and your expectancy is that maybe you win 1 out of 4 trades, and your R multiple, your expectancy would be that maybe you're 4 to 1 for every one you risk, you gain 4. You might not, if you're a person following that trader, you might not understand that person's system might warrant that they lose 6 trades in a row. And how effectively are you going to be able to trade when you're following someone else's system, when you're the second or third loss in? How are you going to be able to maintain that discipline and execute moving forward on
how are you
behalf
going
of
to
that
learn
system? Yeah,
if you're
exactly.
dependent upon someone else laying out a trading structure for you?
Right. Yeah.
So bottom
So
line, you don't learn the secret to trading is it's hard work and perseverance, and a lot of people don't want to pay that price tag, buddy.
that's
But
absolutely it.
for people that do, and you have an interest in crypto, I'm saying right now, Ryan, whether you like it or not, you're my new trading warrior brother, and Ryan knows is a talented, insightful technician. I could say that after one interview. So glad our paths crossed, bro.
Thanks a lot, Dale.
And good hunting. I hope that pips rain down on you and your partner, and your business grows like a mushroom. But don't
Thanks
take
a
any
lot, Dale.
mushrooms while you're trading. All right, buddy?
Never that.
We have a
All
deal?
right, man. Excellent.
All right, Ryan. Thank you. Thanks for
Pleasure.
taking time to come and edify our community today, buddy.
Thank you so much, Dale.
All right, guy. All right, so that's a wrap, everyone. See everyone tomorrow. Good hunting. Remember, don't just count your pips, count your blessings. Adios.